Good afternoon, I'm KHOU meteorologist Chris Ramirez. We are tracking the heavy rain falling out in central Texas, and now we're starting to see some showers coming just a little bit closer to Houston, especially just out towards the west. I think for the most part these are going to remain out west, but just keep in mind that these storms are coming as closer as far as Sealy, so still tracking that very heavy rain with flash flooding ongoing off towards the west. This does include a large portion of Interstate 10 heading towards San Antonio. A large chunk of I-10 is still under a flash flood warning until 3 p.m. as rain has been falling here for the past few hours. So they're still dealing with this catastrophic flooding that is currently ongoing out in central Texas. So as we get a closer look at what we're looking at right now, this is looking at the 6-hour rain totals. And actually, I think this might be 24 hours, even though it says 6 hours at the top. But we've seen up to about 8.8 to close to 9 inches of rain. This is in and around the Seguin area along I-10. You have lulling off towards the east. You have I-10 stretching as far into San Antonio. And so just keep that in mind that we're looking at two areas across central Texas. Now we're looking at the area that's just in and around the Austin area, and then now along I-10 in and around the Seguin area that's currently right now seeing the heaviest of the rainfall. So if you are having any travel plans to travel out towards the west, it's probably not recommended, as we are seeing some reports, especially according to drivetexas.org. They are reporting frontage roads and entrance ramps along I-10 in Seguin that has water over them. So we are seeing some delays with the heavy rain that has been falling. Also, overnight, we saw some heavy rain in and around just upstream the Colorado River, northwest of Austin. That flash flood emergency still in place until 4 o'clock this evening. Rain has lightened up a bit, but they're still seeing some heavy rainfall in and around the Colorado River heading into Austin. So this is just west of Houston. I know we're not seeing any rain or any active storms here across the Houston area, but this is just towards the west. It is the 4th of July weekend. We have a lot of folks traveling across Texas this weekend, and of course we are still hoping for the recovery of what has been going on out in Kerr County, in and around the Kerrville area. And so we are seeing those reports still trickling in, but it's just not over yet, unfortunately, for a large portion of the state. And of course, we have the rivers that you see along that are just draped across the central portion of the state. You have the Hill Country, you have Austin, you have the Colorado River. This is the Guadalupe River north of San Antonio that stretches into Victoria. And now the latest update is what we were looking at as of within the past few minutes, is that we were looking at more of the flooding situation upstream from Canyon Lake. But as we take a closer look towards what's been happening in and around the New Braunfels area, we are seeing a large portion of the KHOU River now looking at dealing with a flash flood emergency. We saw reports of sirens going off out in along the KHOU River that leads into New Braunfels. So this is just downstream from Canyon Lake. And so this area as of yesterday wasn't dealing with any of the impacts from the Kerr County floods, but Canyon Lake very well below full capacity. It's able to retain most of that flood water. However, as of today and as of 1:17 this afternoon, we've seen some heavy rain that has been falling downstream from Canyon Lake in and around the New Braunfels area, and that's why they've issued more of those flash flood warnings and flash flood emergencies for just areas downstream of New Braunfels. And so just to keep in mind that as we look at Houston, you might want to be asking yourself, hey, is this rain, is this system coming towards Houston? For the most part, models are showing that this system is going to remain well out towards the west. And so I'm just going to be straight up honest with you guys, is that models are not really handling this system quite well in terms of the weather models that we've currently used here across most of here in the KHOU 11 studio. And so it's going to be, I think for the most part, rain situated out towards the west. As we get closer towards 2 to 3 p.m., we might see maybe an isolated shower or storm here across the Houston area, but we're expecting that that to remain out towards the west. However, what we're looking at radar right now is that we are seeing some of that heavy rainfall that is slowly starting to edge closer towards the Houston area as of 1:18 this afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and look at radar once again and showing you what we're looking at as of now. We're being straight up transparent in terms of the forecast. We're seeing this band of heavy showers and heavy rain that's now approaching Sealy, and so that's sort of edging closer towards the Katy area, towards Harris County. But I think for the most part, as we get closer towards maybe 2-3 p.m., we're going to start losing that daytime heating, and that could be enough to cause these storms to lose fuel that are in and around just west of Houston. These are not fast moving, so I think that we could still see some downpours moving, just edging closer towards Harris County. But we want to be extra vigilant in terms of the forecast, especially for us here in Houston. And I'm not saying that we're going to see any type of flooding that they're dealing with out west, but just keep in mind that we're just dealing with this unsettled weather pattern, and it might not take much for a downpour to cause some issues here across the Houston area. So I think not expecting this to totally impact Houston, but we still could see some of those downpours edge closer towards the Houston area, at least as we get closer towards 2 o'clock to 11 p.m. as some of this heavy rain is just sort of moving closer towards Harris County, and it's much heavier out towards the west, and it has not let up since the overnight. We were dealing with the Kerr County flooding situation along the Guadalupe River upstream from Canyon Lake, and now areas along I-10 towards San Antonio still dealing with this very heavy rain. They're still dealing with flash flood emergencies out in that region of the state. And we have a lot of folks that, of course, have traveled to that area, as you can only imagine, for the 4th of July weekend. Also, we have the camps that are going on, unfortunately, across those major rivers. That area, very good vacation spot. It's a good area to swim, but we are seeing this heavy rain falling all at once. And this area needed the rain because they were enduring those extreme drought conditions, but it's just when you get all of that rain in the little amount of time that we've seen, it causes tremendous problems, especially for areas in the Texas Hill Country, as that area is very prone to flash flooding. We've been telling you flash flood, we have flooding that happens here in Houston, and then we have the flash flooding that goes on out in Central Texas. It's in two different ball games, because the flooding here in Houston usually very slowly rises, and then we end up in a really bad situation. But out west, out towards the hilly areas of Texas and the Texas Hill Country, flash flooding is something to really keep an eye on, because we usually have the hilly areas and those canyons, and that's when water could just start rushing towards you or towards anybody that's downstream. And that's what we've seen within the past 48 hours. And so unfortunately, rain has not let up in this area for the past few hours. You have the major rivers. This is the Guadalupe River that's currently going through, goes along I-10. This is the Colorado River. Of course, that moves into Lake Travis. There's a lot of dams along these rivers to protect the cities downstream. And right now, we're not hearing of any reports of any releases happening out in the Austin area. But I believe that Austin is still enduring that flash flood warning in terms of what they're looking at now, as we're seeing those flood warnings that are still in place for much of I-10, especially that does include New Braunfels. And I believe when we get close to New Braunfels, if you have any folks that are out there, they did issue a flash flood emergency as catastrophic flooding is now currently ongoing. I think, I know that these rivers are not labeled, but that's the KHOU, I think the Guadalupe, they go towards Green, the very high tourist area. We know the really beautiful city of Green, with a very high tourist spot. There's Canyon Lake, that's the Guadalupe. I believe the KHOU is right around here. And so the Canyon Lake Dam, I'm going to go ahead and turn off radar for you to see what we were looking at as of as of right now. This is Canyon Lake, and like I said before, Canyon Lake was not 100% full. It was only 46% full prior to the Kerr County floods. You have the Canyon Lake Dam that usually gets released, but they didn't have to release it because Canyon Lake has just been so dry from all the recent droughts situation that they've been dealing with, but also we've seen areas that it's just past the dam that has seen some very heavy rainfall, and that is the reason why the National Weather Service has issued that flash flood emergency that does include the Comal River that flows towards the city of Greene, which is a very high tourist spot. There's a lot of cabins, a lot of vacation rental places that are along those rivers, and this is kind of just an important reminder that this is not letting up anytime soon as we progress through the next few hours, especially for folks in Central Texas. If you're traveling west to San Antonio, and this is the reason why we are focusing so much on what's happening out in Central Texas, because I can only imagine that folks are probably wanting to get home, or maybe you have loved ones here in Houston for the 4th of July weekend. They're trying to get back to San Antonio. But if you are planning to travel along I-10 going west towards San Antonio, we're seeing rainfall accumulations up to 4.5 inches, close to 9 inches just to the east of Seguin. And we did see that drivetexas.org is reporting some of the entrances, the freeway ramps and the frontage roads have water over them out in Seguin as rain has been falling there, at least for the last few hours. I believe rain has been falling there as of 9 o'clock this morning is when we were on air for the 9 a.m. newscast. And then so as we look closely at what's happening, we're seeing this rain just letting up just a bit, but I mean, now San Antonio is now looking at some heavy rainfall currently right now. And so I just say that you might just avoid travel if you do not necessarily have to out west, and that does include Highway 290 heading off towards Austin, because Austin is currently under a flash flood warning, and that's until 2 p.m. and they are putting a considerable tag with that. So radar engage indicated flooding going on in and around I believe the Austin area, as that area has also received quite tremendous amount of rainfall last night. And this is, like I said, that was an addition to the Kerr County flooding that was going on on July 4th. So radar right now, we're seeing some heavy rain moving closer towards Harris County. We might see these just remain out west for the most part. I think that we're going to see these remain out west, but it's one of those things to just keep an eye on these downpours if they do try to make it into Houston, because they're not fast moving. And so I'm not saying that there's 100% that there's going to be a downpour that's going to cause some flooding in Houston, but just be extra vigilant on the forecast and on the weather updates as we go into the afternoon hours, because we are seeing quite a tremendous amount of rain that has been falling across along I-10 and across Central Texas. And I can only imagine the devastation that is going on out in that region, especially as we have been celebrating the 4th of July, or at least try to celebrate the 4th of July. But we are expecting rain still in place across portions of Central Texas, even I-10 still enduring some heavy rainfall and quite a bit of lightning as well. So if you find it necessary to travel out west towards San Antonio or Austin, be extra cautious. Turn around, don't drown. Just if you see water over the roadway, just have it in your head that it's already deep and your car's not going to make it through it, because this flash flooding situation, as we've already seen, is not something to take lightly, especially for areas out towards the west and especially in the Texas Hill Country. So I just wanted to give you an update of what we're looking at right now, and we're tracking the latest on what's ongoing out in Central Texas, especially in the Hill Country, as flooding, unfortunately, is still ongoing across that region. And now we're starting to see some more of this flooding that is in place, especially as flash flood warnings are still in place for a large chunk of I-10 just before you get to San Antonio if you are coming from the Houston area. And so as we look off towards Austin, I believe that they have issued a flash flood emergency for the Llano River out near Marble Falls. That is until 4 o'clock this afternoon, and Austin right now is under a flash flood warning as well. So this system just really not moving anywhere anytime soon. It's still remaining stationary, but we are tracking the latest, and we will definitely keep you up to date as we head into the afternoon hours, because I can only imagine folks are probably here who live out there, or vice versa. There's folks that are probably, have our apps and have our notifications, and you want to know what's going on in that region. And so as we look at futurecasts, we cannot rule out a possible downpour here across Houston later this afternoon. I think rain chances very isolated for us here today, but like I said, it's flooding. It's not letting up out west in central Texas. And as always, we are doing our very best to keep you up to date on the ongoing flooding situation out in central Texas. And you can get the latest updated information on khou.com, and as well as downloading the